Are you there?
I'm there.
See you. I think. Yeah, are you there as well? Good, and all of you people are there as well. Hello. My connection's not very good today, apparently, so I'll be very, very blurred. Hello, welcome to Shambles Stay at Home Festival. And today we have brilliant singer-songwriter. You might have seen it, Compendium of Reason or Nihilist Carols for Curious People are on tour generally. We have Gecko, we have Howard Reed, and Howard is, as well as being a brilliant comedian and comedy writer and animator, he's won awards for things like Horrible Histories. And we have the brilliant therapist and best-selling author Philippa Perry as well. How are you doing, Josie?
I'm all right. I think it's an unusual time, and I think a lot of me and a lot of my friends that I've been talking to the last couple of days just sort of were a bit struck by the idea that this situation might last for 6 months, particularly with regards to like children's lives. So I'm very, very excited that we have Philippa Perry on, that we can ask her some questions about it. I'm all right. I've got a lovely bandage for my foot. So, you know, could life be better? I doubt it. How are you?
Yeah, pressure on my elbow from doing plank every morning's got too much. I'm too weak for this exercise thing. I've had a lovely time, actually. We've been kind of in the evening when my son's not been doing his homework and stuff. We watched Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes. And the other thing that I'm very glad to have introduced him to is The Young Ones.
What do you think of it?
He's kind of pretty. He's interested. He's enjoying it. I think Rick is undoubtedly the standout for him. Rick and the weird puppets and but he's actually look at you, Neil, swatting away for teacher, all of that kind of stuff. And then every now and again a word come up, and I go, "Oh, you do remember Archie?" Yes, he goes, "I know. That's no longer used, Father. I know."
I used to really love Neil growing up. I think because he was such a gentle soul and he was so bullied. I was like, Neil, all you want is to eat your lentils. Why can't they be kind to you?
It's greatest moment ever is in the final episode where the fridge explodes and Neil's wig flies off and he just goes, "Oh, no, I never knew I wore a wig." And that to me is just a wonderful moment. Josie, have you got a show and tell today?
Not yet.
That's all right. It doesn't matter. I'll do mine very, very speedily. I've got a few, but today I thought, because this time last week with Mark Gatiss, we were talking about the Peter Wingard auction, which did tremendously well. I should never have told it to have told far too many.
Did you bid on anything?
No, because it all, and also I do understand when my wife said when I first started looking at that auction, no, none of it. None of it. As Mark Gatiss said as well, that sometimes you just go, there's enough stuff, even though I do need Peter Wingard's old watches and pen box. But just weird, just some receipts that he'd signed went for about 80 quid. This is because his teddy bear was probably one of the things that I would have quite liked to have. My show and tell today is my teddy bear. This is my, who's at least 51, probably older than me, I imagine, manufactured before me. And one day I must do a little bit of work on his eyes. Some of the paint's gone off his eyes. This is Snubby. That is my teddy bear. This is my Aloysius Brideshead Revisited moment and my show and tell for the day.
Oh, Snubby.
And I don't know where the name came from. I don't know why he was Snubby. I suppose he does have quite a snub nose, but yes, Snubby there, given to me by my lovely godfather, Bob Jack, who is no longer with us. So should we introduce Philippa Perry?
Yes, I'm so excited to. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone, Philippa Perry. Philippa Perry. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I've got a cough.
Oh, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, so do I. There's no testing. It might just be a cough, you know?
It's I wish I was a more professional host, able to not be sort of slightly sideswiped by it all.
Well, I thought Adam Kay was coming on today. I thought this is the only chance I've got to see a doctor, but he's coming on tomorrow instead.
But it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because once you're middle-aged, sometimes I do wake up and I go, oh, and then I go, oh no, I always wake up like this. I've been waking up like this since I was 48. A lot of the things where I go, oh, that funny ache, oh, that tickly cough, are my normal things. And so I think that, and of course we are in this heightened, like my neighbour, when he opens the window to kind of wash in the morning, and I'm in the garden doing exercises, and I hear him coughing, and I think, oh, and then I go, oh no, my neighbour always has a little cough in the morning. So it's quite weird to work out the paranoia and the hypochondria and also at the same time be aware of potential illness.
I love the thing that you lose your sense of taste and smell. So I keep opening a jar of coffee and sniffing it and going, yep, I can still smell the coffee. That's fantastic.
Yeah. How much Tabasco can I drink? Oh, still not very much. I'm all right. We have got loads of questions for you, and I've
got loads of questions for you.
Go for it, time.
No. I'm just kidding. In terms of like, I'd love to ask you later about how I can help look after my young child in this strange thing without giving her too much of the outside world. Like, but I don't mind asking that first. But I'm talking to lots of friends here.
I watched you with your young child this morning, and you're doing just fine. You've got nothing to worry about. How about that?
What do you think? It is.
I mean, all your child is doing is focusing on you anyway.
Yeah.
And if you go to the park and they see another child and they want to run towards them, you just say the game today is that we wave from a distance, you know.
I've been saying her that adults are playing a game, and then I was like, I'm not sure if this is wise, but I was like, all the grown-ups are playing a special game where they keep...
It's not a bad thing to do, because if you say we can't go near those people because we might catch a disease, it's A, scary, and B, it's... you know, when you're working and your kid goes, can we play now? And you go, not now, darling, I've got to do my Excel spreadsheets. It doesn't make any difference. They keep annoying you. They keep going, Mum, have you done it yet? It's so what that is that you can tell them something, but their bodies know something different. And we adults are the same. So when we see our friend across the street, we just stay and wave at a distance, and then we walk on, and we kind of feel rejected. Because why didn't they come over? But we know why they didn't come over, but our body still feels that rejection. And that's what children are having all the time when we say, no, you can't kiss granny or whatever it is, because it feels like they're being rejected. So you can give them any amount of explanation, but they'll still have the feelings that go with it. And so will we probably. It's why we're feeling so weird. How's that?
Right.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it's helpful. It is. And it's one of those things like, I mean, we can't avoid the situation, can we? So it is a case of trying as best to manage it while it's happening and then deal with it afterwards.
I think we kind of are processing as we go along. We're processing a new thing, so it's all up in the air, and it will land, and it's fine to just feel in a bit of a muddle and a bit weird because it's all new, and we are going against our human instincts because, you know, at times of, you know, stress and worry, we tend to group together, you know, for comfort, and this time we're having to push apart, so it's going against instinct. So I think that's why it feels particularly weird.
Yeah.
Well, this might be Matthew Watson, who was at the show about 8 days ago, brilliant singer-songwriter. He said, I'm interested in the psychology behind why, as a person who is normally very happy to be a homebody, I'm starting to feel rather out of sorts and claustrophobic about staying home, and what is the best way of dealing with that. So I think there's quite a few kind of people that I know who are quite used to spending what might be called, you know, time in solitude and isolation, and are now going, something's not quite clicking at the moment.
Well, I've got a friend who lives on his own and really likes it, but his bodily rhythms are sort of like, he normally thinks, I think I'll go and write in a cafe this morning, and so he has the choice normally of being around people, even if he's not interacting with them. And we are pack animals, and that's the sort of way we self-regulate, and it feels kind of normal when we're actually forbidden. So we're not choosing to be alone, we have to be alone. It's a very different thing. So if you're choosing to be alone, it feels great. If you have to be alone, you're again going against your instinct. So even if you are a normal isolate, you go and sit in the have your lunch amongst people sitting in pret-a-manger or whatever, and that actually makes you feel like you belong to something, even if you don't talk to them. So, you'll feel weird. And it's okay to feel weird. It's better than passing on a deadly disease. So don't worry about not feeling weird. Feeling weird is fine. We just have to come to terms with feeling weird. I can't make you feel better.
We should say, by the way, because you mentioned that other cafes are also not available. This is an interesting one from another, which is Lisa Broughton wondered about what happens. What we can imagine is when we are going back out again, that kind of sense of a certain amount of graded exposure, especially with people who may well have already had pre-existing trouble of sometimes going out, some of the agoraphobic people, etc., that now there is this enforced time. What can we start thinking about in terms of that time when we can go back out again? Because I think that's,
don't jump the gun when it happens. When it happens. And I think just be aware of what your experience is and be interested in it, rather than thinking I should be having this reaction to going out again or whatever. Maybe we'll never go out again. Not sort of predict what that will be like. I mean, the nearest thing I've got to it in terms of experience is when the foot and mouth thing was on and we couldn't go for walks in the country. And then after about 6 months, we were allowed to go for a walk in the country again. I thought that felt amazing. I just didn't take it for granted. I normally sort of think, I've got to get my exercise and tramp through a few fields. But when I couldn't, it felt horrible. And when I could again, I really appreciated it for, probably about 2 weeks before I took it for granted again. And I suppose it might be a bit the same.
Well, that's the one side of it is, I think, because we've got a smaller square to look at, it's been quite interesting to see how, for quite a few people, I think the intensity in which you look at that square of sky, for instance, that you might be able to see out of your back window, or if you've got a small garden or whatever, and you really look at it even more, and you start to kind of not know if it's psychosomatic or not, but because the planes aren't predominantly flying, that kind of thing, you go, I think the moon, it was lovely to see that the moon and Venus were trending on Twitter. That's quite a common thing to see. The beautiful brightness of the two things together. But now people are going, right, that's the square I can look at. So let's really look at it.
Yeah, that's a lovely thing to do as well, is to sort of go, we're usually taking a meta perspective, but now we can take a sort of macro one. It's amazing.
Josie, do you have any more?
I'd like to ask a question, which is just from me again, which is, so if we know that there's a period of time which is like 3 months or something, that we might have to be doing this, and this is really difficult for us, are there sort of ways that are more beneficial to get through it than not, in terms of, is it better to be like, okay, every week I'm going to do this, that, the other, or is it better to be like, I'm just going to roll with the punches? Like, are there ways that are less destructive in general or more destructive?
I did a Twitter survey on this very subject. I said, are you a person that needs to plan A, or are you going to go with flow type? And what was interesting was the results were 52-48. 52%, 48%. So it seems to be the evil number of what we need to do. Like, some people absolutely need a structure and they don't feel you're off screen. Tick for what? Am I off screen?
Oh no, you're not off screen. That's okay. That was a message for Josie. Josie's doing a little bit of childcare at the moment.
I got a little bit distracted.
That's all right.
Yeah, whether you should plan, whether you should go for the flow, we are 52% go with the flow, 48% planners amongst us, and we should do what makes us feel better. Some people hate a plan. Some people feel like they fall apart without structure. Know which camp you're in and do that thing.
I've got one more question for you, Josie. You'll be back on screen in a moment, which is a little bit broader. And after we've seen Howard Reed as well, we'll come back and we will talk about your books as well, because I imagine How to Stay Sane is probably selling very well on Kindle at the moment. But this is from Steve, and Steve says, when I was a young child, I suffered from mental illnesses that frightened me. I was so relieved when I discovered that they were known conditions, and so it wasn't just me. Should young children be introduced to the idea of mental illness, and if so, how? And that's a slightly different question, but it's I thought from reading some of your past work as well, that bit of, and we've talked about this before.
I think what we have to be careful about this is something called social contagion. So not a lot of people suffered from bipolar when it was still called manic depression. But as soon as we got a name for it and people thought, oh, that's me, they think they've got it. And it sort of becomes catching in a social way. So I think it's really important to honour your own experience of being. And if you have a diagnosis for it, this gives you a narrative for how you feel, and that can be a great comfort. But on the other hand, it can also put you in a pigeonhole, so, as though you're made out of stone. In fact, we're all kind of plastic and we can all change. So we don't have to be stuck with a label on us. So there's pros and cons to that. And so I can't give you a definite answer either way. But I would say that when we talk about mental illness so much, rather than our experience and how we feel and all have and all, and say, but put them in a box called mental illness, then we don't explore them enough, I think. And it becomes a little bit of a full stop instead of being interested about how you are developing and how you are unfolding. Because we never stop developing and learning as we get older. And if you're just going to pin yourself down on a board with a label, I think it can arrest development a bit.
I think that's it. We talked about this when I interviewed you for the book ages ago, which is that, and I've found since when I talk about some of the things inside that, which are not things with specific names or whatever, the number of people in the comedy audience, and I'm sure Josie's experienced this as well, who come up to you afterwards and go, "Oh, I thought what I thought was weird and just me, but it turns out an enormous number of us are weird. In fact, so many so that those who are not weird really question themselves." Do you know what I mean? So rather than...
Well, I think this is what's so great about talking and therapy, because before you talk to other people really about what's going on with you, you think you're the only one that feels like that. Because what we do is we judge our internal experience by comparing with what other people look like on the outside. So when we do that, we all feel weird. But if we compare our internal experience, we go, oh, you too, whether or not we put a label on it. Because, you know, who doesn't feel a bit trepidatious with a party when you don't know anyone and everybody else looks like they're talking and feeling fine? It's like we're all feeling possibly a little bit similar on the inside. It's just that our social culture, the way we present on the outside, there's a little bit of a dissonance going on. So I don't go into a party going, I'm so shy, I don't want anyone to talk to me. I go, hi, I'm Phil. But there is a part of me that's going, inside, obviously. And I expect there is for everyone. But I'm not going to call myself a social phobic because of that.
That's what I loved. I loved your comment where you said that the trouble is we judge everyone else from their exterior and we judge ourselves from our interior. Yeah, and there will always be a disparity. It's just,
I told you before. Yeah, it doesn't mean to say we're mad. Yeah,
it's so useful to know that. Josie, have we got you back on? I'm not sure now.
Yeah, my daughter came and joined in, and she was very excited to hear when you were talking about outside, which is her favourite place. Yeah.
Well, we will we'll take a break, and well, not a break. In fact, we're going to go somewhere else. And we should mention, by the way, we have a tip jar on this, and hopefully, if you've enjoyed this show, what we're doing is we're collecting money for some of the people who have basically had all of their work for the next 3-4 months, possibly 6 months removed. So as a kind of fund, as support for them, and also hopefully we're going to make enough that we're going to be able to give some money to some of the small art centres that are around the country, which aren't just about the shows in the evening. A lot of them are places where people gather during the day, a lot of people in the community, so trying to make sure that we can keep them going as well. So if you can put something in the tip jar, that we're going to try and share that out as much as possible to as many of the places which you probably enjoy.
I keep thinking about the richness of every just like all of the little places that I take my daughter, like taking her to the library and taking her to a tiny little soft play in Finsbury Park. This morning I was like, oh no, what if that goes under? I don't want those people to go under, they're the best. So the idea that we can try and help maintain the richness of certain places is really, really important, I think.
Thank you. And we're going to go now to someone who, oh man, I've known him for about 25 years and he's brilliant. And it's been really amazing seeing the different develop. I remember being with him on the Charing Cross Road well over 20 years ago, I would imagine, where he said, I just need to pop into this bookshop. I need to buy a book about animation. And he started animating and created just brilliant, beautiful and very, very funny things, including a brilliant TV series called Big Howard, Little Howard. I will quickly mention now as well, he's doing another project called Lost Comics at the moment with Phil Nickel and various others. It's on the internet. It's a chance for lots of the comics who are at home to kind of create different things for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to his front room, Howard Reed.
Yay!
Hello, my name's Howard Reed. Hello, and I'm here to give you some hints and tips on how to cope when you're self-isolating with children. Got some help today. My son Samson's helping out.
Hello.
And my daughter Mabel.
Hi.
And last but definitely not least, my 6-year-old cartoon version of myself, Little Howard. Come on.
Hello, everybody.
It's Little Howard.
Howard.
Hi, Little Howard.
Oh, for God's sake.
Right, some of you might have been experiencing little bits of moodiness like that. It's perfectly understandable being cooped up together all the time.
Dad, is that my computer?
Shush. Your father is working.
Yeah, a little bit busy at the moment.
I needed to do my homework.
He doesn't. He just wants to watch Disney Plus Big Howard.
Yes, Disney Plus, of course. A godsend coming when it did.
And it is just a coincidence that happened to happen the same week as lockdown. Don't listen to any of those conspiracy theories. Mickey is innocent.
Anyway, yes, so my recommendation to you would be to relax those screen time limits that you might be imposing normally.
So can I?
Not now.
Look at me. If you limit my screen time, I'll die. I'm not surprised you've written him out of the will, Big Howard.
What?
Yeah. If lockdown carries on for much longer, there won't be any money left anyway. A lot of these moments of being really annoying come from anxiety, as Philippa, I'm sure, will tell you. Real children, not very good at coping with it. They just play up and act very annoying. The more fun sort of child have got lots of coping mechanisms built in. For example, cartoon children like making pasta pictures.
Here's one I made earlier.
Really is one of the most talented ones. Also, tin can forts. There we are. And toilet roll fights, they're big fans of. So make sure you keep those 3 items stocked up as much as you possibly can. Not a toilet roll fight. No, not a good time for the time. No, not a toilet roll fight. No, stop it. Stop it. No, stop it. No, stop that. No. Come on. We've got to impose restrictions. We've got rules. We're going to have 3 sheets of toilet roll per toilet roll fight. It's just as much fun. Toilet roll fight. Toilet roll fight. Oh, that's 2. I'll save that one. Toilet roll fight. It's just as much fun.
This pandemic is awful.
It is quite hard work, isn't it? Anyway,
and make sure you don't get those activities mixed up.
Oh yes.
Toilet roll forts are great, and tin can fights are brilliant.
Yeah.
Until you throw one at a human and they get all concussion-y.
I had to go to hospital.
You just can't take a joke without severe head trauma.
So this next bit, do you reckon could you pop on a face mask for us, little Howard?
Why?
Just if I'm honest, it just saves on lip syncing.
No, I refuse.
Fine. Exercise is very important to children and.
On second thoughts, maybe I will for a bit.
Possibly, good idea. Exercise is very important for children, real and cartoon. Cartoon children are very good at exercising, aren't they?
not too.
Cartoon children can usually get their exercise by running down an infinitely long corridor
Bobby,
with
I
the same
don't want you
standard
drawing them with
going
two
past in the
pictures.
background again and again.
But that's quite tricky to recreate if you don't have a full
You can draw
animation
on my
team.
phone, yeah.
There is a way of
Do you want
doing
to
it
draw-
at home,
Look,
though.
you've got
Samson
two
and Mabel,
pencils
help me
here.
out,
Maybe
please.
Daddy could set you up with some paper and you could do some drawing on the paper.
Come on. Yes, you do. Come on, like we practice. Go, keep going.
Just drop them everywhere.
Get moving.
And count them back in. But she's got these two pens.
Come on. Here we go. Let's go all the way through. All the way through the shots. Come on.
Mummy,
Give
have that
your
phone
brother
back,
some
please.
exercise.
Go fast.
Mummy needs
Come on,
her
quick.
Good
phone.
work out, guys. Good work out, guys.
Well done.
Really well.
Round of applause. Thank you. Well done, guys. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Those are our hints and tips.
Toilet roll fight.
No, not a toilet roll fight. No, not a toilet roll fight. Stop it. No. Stop. One sheet at a time. One sheet at a time. One sheet.
Thank you very much, Howard Reid. You might have noticed there we had a few technical difficulties, which Josie forgot to mute her phone.
Oh,
So was
I'm so
also
sorry, and I was
points
telling
at
them what to do,
Howard.
going, don't worry, we are muted, don't worry.
Anyway, thank you so much, Howard. Tell us a little bit quickly about Lost Comics, which you're doing with Phil Nickel and various others.
It's a collective of lots of comics. Phil Nickel, Tony Law, lots of other people who are creating online content to just get out there and entertain people. It's trying to repurpose our skill sets.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Howard. And going back to Howard's work, he does lots of wonderful things. Thank you very much for animating that for us as well. Thank you to your children as well. Now, please go and pick up all those pieces of toilet paper.
We're reusing all of them. I wasn't aware we were doing this in front of a therapist.
Howard, Philippa, because we just there with children, both real and animated. That book has done incredibly well. The book you wish your parents had read, and since that came out, I would imagine, are there certain questions and certain ideas in it that are the ones that people most want to revisit with you, and the things that you have found that there's certain parts of each chapter which have touched people more than others and made people realise things about the relationship with their children?
One of the things that I get a lot is people thinking that all the stuff in the book doesn't apply to them and their child because their child is super special in some way, especially in terms of what people aren't getting, which I'd like them to get, is that they think that if, say, they've got a child that's got what they call a temper, that how can I cure my child of feeling angry? And that's not the right question. Because what I say in the book is that if you've got a problem, what you think is a problem with your child, what you have got, in fact, is a problem with your relationship with your child. This is what I'd like to hit home, and it's not about how can I not make him angry, how can I make him not angry. It's about how can I find acceptable ways with him for him to express his anger. So what people would like is just for their child to be happy the whole time, rather than to go into it a little bit more deeply and find out what it is that's upsetting them and validate those feelings. That's the hardest part for people, I think.
I found that there was one point where you talk about where we end up reenacting exactly the same mistakes that our parents made. You know, that bit where we're suddenly you find yourself doing exactly what maybe, made you the person that you were. And that's one of the hardest things.
For me, when I was bringing up my kid, the enactment I did the most was wanting to push my children away. Well, I've only got one, so obviously I pushed one away really well. No, I'm joking. I've only got one. And when you haven't got your own headspace, it feels, because between the ages of about 8 months and 3 years old, they just want to have you respond to them the whole time, because their brain is developing in relationship with you. And so they're sort of locked into needing so much of your attention that you feel like you're losing your mind. And actually the best thing to do is lose it, is to lose your mind, is to surrender to the process of being needed that much. And then it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. But I had a lot of resistance to doing that. And my parents did as well. They just farmed me out the whole time. And which gave me a feeling of not being wanted for the rest of my life. So it's not brilliant to just push them away, because then you get the feeling that somehow it's acceptable.
What's great there is the soundtrack behind us as well, in terms of the not
My
pushing them
daughter's
away.
reading out. She's reading out some of this. Reading out some of this book that says "Bumpety, bumpety, hold on tight."
I think that's the most important thing. Hold on tight, and we should be concentrating on the baby, because that's what the baby wants.
Sorry, we were managing to sort of get her in a different room, but she's very much anti-different rooms.
Let's just have the baby on.
Josie,
sorry, I'm going to.
The young in this all about Eve scenario. I'm afraid Eve is your own child.
Because I'm really enjoying listening, and I want to contribute, and then I mute, and then I unmute, and then she's around. But also, it's very interesting because I think about my own childhood, and I think my mum was the opposite. My mum was like thrilled to be able to sort of be really immersed, but then obviously I think then when we got a bit older, that must have been harder. And I'm like, oh great, that's what's going to happen with me. The opposite.
Because when they're really young, they kind of need you to be immersed because they're developing in relation. Get out into the world, which we can't actually do at the moment, which is a little bit frustrating, and they develop in relationship with other people and need you less. But at the moment, everybody is with their child, even though their child would rather be elsewhere. Probably, it's hard.
This is Anastasia wants to know whether you had any insights on how to look past the massive rifts in viewpoints that are often within friends and family, especially at this point as well, and finding that way of accepting the difference of opinion and also finding the place for love as well.
I'm sure you've got more in common than you've got not in common, but we tend to focus on the not in common bit. So what we can do is just park that and focus on what you have got in common. You can make that, for this period of isolation, a taboo subject, which might help. Another thing you can do is look at the feelings behind the reasons, because we tend to sort of argue in reasons. But if we understand the feelings from the other person and where they're coming from, we can see why they've got that different point of view, and then it's easier to accept that they have got that different point of view. It's fine that we think differently. It's not thinking differently isn't the problem, it's how we deal with those differences that's the problem. It's absolutely impossible to think that even two people living together would feel the same way about absolutely everything. They don't. So it's just a matter of understanding why they feel that way, the feelings behind it, and why you feel the way you do.
It seems like a problem that we've also seen another version of it with social media, where everyone shares so many opinions, and there's a point where you just go, do you know what? It's sometimes best not to know about everything that is inside our heads, and that sometimes you go, do you know what? Just for the sake of contentment and happiness, some of the kind of personalities and authors and writers and scientists that I like, I then go, oh, I didn't know they thought that. And previously we were never in that situation of knowing about those. And sometimes you go,
I think with social media, we've got to the state whereby if somebody agrees with 9 out of your 20 opinions but doesn't agree with the 20th, they want to write off the whole person. It's all got very all or nothing. And I think that is a quite an inhuman way of seeing it. Just because somebody isn't completely and utterly as woke as you are doesn't mean to say they're a bad person.
Can I ask something in relation to politics, which is how do you deal with the feelings of like absolute frustration and hopelessness when the government does, lets you down to the extent that they do? Because I think on a normal everyday basis, the way that I would deal with that is to channel those feelings into more action. But obviously my circumstances sort of limit me from that in some way. And also it's not necessarily a possibility in the same way at the moment. So like, because I understand it's like if you have disagreements with people over things, you can
reply to what I said. Oh no, she started again. What? Okay.
Oh no, sorry.
You froze on me halfway through that.
Oh no.
Just a bit like, what can I do with my political frustration? And I think it's quite interesting because I think we look to politicians a lot, and in a sort of like infant to authority way, rather than realizing that we're all adults. They aren't parents to us. They are other adults that have got elected somehow or other, probably because of an old boy network or something. And we kind of want them to be perfect, like we wanted our parents to be perfect, and they're not. And I think we need to accept that they aren't perfect. And you know the normal channels as well as I do. I think maybe you could go out and riot, Josie. I really don't know. I mean, I haven't got the answer to everything.
I'm sorry.
It's interesting that we kind of expect authority figures to be somehow faultless, you know, whether they're politicians or doctors or head teachers or whatever. And of course they're not. And I think we should be more forgiving sometimes of their human frailties and indeed of our own.
Somebody's asked a pretty frivolous question as well, which is slightly more fun for you as opposed to us being like, tell us everything, please. Which is, what's the best way to make chips?
Well, I think the best way to make chips for me, you might have a different idea about how to make chips, but I cut a potato up into chip-like sizes, right? And then I boil it in water for like 5 or 6 minutes, so it still tastes like that. And then I fluff it up, drain them, fluff it up, and then I put them into hot oil. Mwah.
Parboil
My chips. I do. It absorb more fat. Yay.
Thank you.
We had another question as well.
I hope it's cookery. Please, God, it's cookery.
Oh no, don't worry. We're all at the one isn't even a question. Can you merely tell Philippa that I love her? So there we go. That's from Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Loves your work. But Mark would like to know why is your husband so critical about the way you explained green screens to him? Which I think you.
Oh God.
What was this about?
Husband had a sort of row. I think it was because we were cooped up together, and I was explaining how you do a green screen on Zoom, and he wasn't getting it, and he says he wasn't getting it because of the way I explained it, and I said no, it's because of the way you're receiving that information, which is kind of it's not a resolvable argument. But that didn't stop us carry on arguing about it. Anyway, I think he knows how to do green screen on Zoom now, so all's good.
Do you sometimes use your the years as a therapist as a power for victory, where as someone here you are having a volatile argument and then say, oh well, you know why this is happening, don't you? Because the unresolved issue.
I think we both do, and I don't think it's great to have the exchange of a difference of opinion. I don't think the goal to win is necessarily the goal we should be having. I think the goal we should be having is thinking, wow, what went on there? And let's be curious about it, rather than who's going to win. I think if you want to win an argument with a loved one, you will do so at their expense. And why would you want to make someone you love feel worse? Although we do from time to time.
Josie, do you have any final questions?
Well, not at the moment. I'm really just enjoying myself too much. Somebody was too vague about this. They were like, talk more about only children. But I feel like that's too open-ended. That's not a question.
Talk more about only children. I think whatever dynamic your family has, it will be unique. And let's not get stuck into rules about it. I noticed my only child, because I've got an only child, I don't think only children are the problem, actually. I think siblings are the problem. So it's much easier if you've only got one. But my only child was desperate for other children the whole time. And if we went to a pub or something, she'd usually sort of stand on the table or get an aerial view and look at all the other kids in the garden and decide which group was having the most fun. And then she'd edge her way in and join it. And she sort of did this without ever being told what to do. She sort of worked it out. So she always sort of found people to play with. It was quite sweet, really. I think siblings is quite interesting, because obviously if you're an older sibling and then your parents decide you're not enough and get another one, that's quite upsetting. And so I think we should be very kind to old children and not expect them to show massive maturity compared to their younger ones. We shouldn't compare them.
Well, I remember as a kid.
That's a vague answer for a vague question.
Yeah, but I remember as a kid, my mum, my biggest sister would always be like, "I'm the baby, so she's the baby, so it's fine," you know. But of course, it's 2 years different.
You found a way of making it work. I think older children can get resentful if they're expected to always behave well, and their younger siblings get away with murder. So.
And Kurt Vonnegut said that the youngest child was the one who was most likely to grow up to be some kind of professional show-off. And I did do some very, very mild research when I wrote the thing I did a while ago, and I did find that of the 30 comics I asked, 25 were the youngest child. Some of them were also only children, but that still counts. And
they are still the youngest child.
Yeah, they are still the youngest, and there were only two middle children out of that 30. But I wouldn't say that's the most complete piece of research ever. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank
Philippa.
you.
And I hugely recommend, in fact, all of your books: Couch Fiction, How to Stay Sane, and the book you wish your parents had read.
Couch Fiction is coming out again in time for Christmas, with the new set of drawings.
Finally, you've given us something to look forward to. It's a great, really interesting book, actually. Whether you are a therapist, whether you've been in therapy or whether in therapy, it's out of print.
Can you shut up about Couch Fiction? It's out of print.
Look, do you know what? Your other one's doing fine. We don't need to
pre-order. Pre-order now.
Christmas though.
That's like the thing where Alexi Sale said, whenever you're asked to name your favourite comedian, always name someone who is dead, because then they're not your competition. So in the same way, I'm naming your book that is currently not available, thus trying to stem the competition. But there's no point. They're brilliant books. As I said before, I'm sorry, by the way, today we have had some weird technical difficulties. Every now and again that does happen. You can go and find all the previous episodes. They're all on YouTube with Chris Hadfield, Mark Gatiss, Joe Brand, Sarah Pascoe, David McColmont, lots of Brian Cox, Brian Green, Helen Chersky, lots of those. So you can find them there, and you can also listen to them now as an audio podcast as well on iTunes. And also, please do take a look at the tip jar, because I said we're trying to build up a fund to try and keep a lot of those social things going, those art centres, and also the people who play in them, all of whom will be finding it very difficult over the next few months.
And also, it's just a very exciting mix of people already. Only after about a week and a bit, there's such a good range of guests already, and a good range of people doing different things on the show. So it's really worth checking it out.
And tomorrow we've got. If you would like to ask Adam Kay questions, our email is stayathome@cosmicshambles.com, stayathome@cosmicshambles.com, and any questions for Adam Kay, his book about being a doctor and all of the problems with that, and why he eventually decided to stop that as his career, is fascinating and a brilliant insight. Thanks, Josie.
Thanks, Robin. Sorry, I've been more of a hindrance than a help today, but it's been fun for me. I'm really excited.
A show.
I like the children. Thank you for bringing the children on, Ken.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure and my unavoidable daily life. We've got one final guest today, and he's a fantastic musician that Robin and I have both gigged with and seen around and heard the music of a lot. And I think you will really enjoy. So please, ladies and gentlemen, everybody, give it up for. What do you think about that intro?
Here we go. Oh.
We promise technical difficulties. We continue with them.
This is a song about the Tooth Fairy. And it goes like this. Dear Joe, I'm writing in response of your letter. There's a chance you might not remember. You did send it back in November 1997. Afraid we've had a bit of a backlog. Here at Tooth Fairy HQ, we've had a few staff cutbacks, and it's taken a while to get back to you. But your letter was something quite special. It made my day, I can assure you, especially as most of our post goes, "Dear Tooth Fairy, you didn't pay me enough for my molars, so I'm filing a lawsuit." Said the kids at school were teasing you. They said I wasn't real, but you believed in me. You said you always will, from now to the next millennium, which, thinking about it, was just 3 short years from then. But it was a popular word at the time. But your letter really helped, believe me. It's amazing to feel your belief in me. As soon as they stopped leaving their teeth, so many just stopped believing in me. I love the picture you painted me. You really captured my likeness faithfully. Your use of colour amazed me, and that red elephant with a handbag next to me, well, it's just completely pivotal to the piece as a whole. And I wonder what you're doing now. So many years have passed, it's strange. You said you hope you go up to be either a doctor, an astronaut, or a member of All Saints. We'll never say never, ever. Have I ever felt so low? Did you follow your dreams, Joe? Or get lost in between, Joe? And of course we have to make compromises. I for one wasn't thrilled when I had to diversify. 50% tooth management, 50% selling washing up products. But that's working life, just as long as it's working right. It's a scary business. When life gives you lemons, sometimes you have to make fairy liquid. Just follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Like a radio wave, crash in the air, you'll swim like a little mermaid. Ariel, follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Life's a game of risk and you're a new player. But trust you'll be fine, I'm the toothpaste soothsayer. I know times are tough at the moment. It reminds me of the 80s. For someone whose life is teeth, I've never seen such calcium deficiency. It's like someone just woke up one day and decided to steal all of the kids' milk. But that was before you were born. But now the cycle's returning. It's a struggle to keep your head above water and just keep the treadmill turning. The cuts have hit my department hard. There's 3 of us left. The office is empty. We've had to draft in the Easter Bunny to take calls at reception. We tempted him with eggs as an incentive. Modern life is expensive. It's hard not to be defensive. Me and St. Nick have lost contact. Even Rudolph's on a 0-hour contract. World's gone mad, but just follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Like a radio wave, crashing the air, you'll swim like a little mermaid. Ariel, follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Life's a game of risk and you're a new player, but trust you'll be fine, I'm the toothpaste soothsayer. But now to the point of my letter. What I really want you to remember. You gotta drink up life like you did in 97. Turn the amplifier up to 11 paint pictures. Life is your sandpit. Don't care if people don't understand it. Go on the swings. Find someone to take turns with. Your time is worth something. Tell that to the internship. Stride out into the world. But don't be too scared to ask for some help. Because if you can believe in a tooth fairy, sure as hell can believe in yourself. Follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Like a radio wave, crashing the air, you'll swim like a little mermaid. Ariel, follow the stream, Joe. You get to the sea, Joe. Life's a game of risk and you're a new player. But trust you'll be fine, I'm the toothpaste soothsayer. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Gecko. That was brilliant. Do you have another song for us?
I've got another song. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Should go in. So I was at the Louvre in Paris recently. Not that recently, like before this all kicked off. And at the Louvre, the most famous thing there is the Mona Lisa. And the room that the Mona Lisa is in is always absolutely packed when it's open full of hundreds and hundreds of people all trying to get a picture of what is essentially quite a small painting. But in that same room, opposite the Mona Lisa, there's a huge, amazing painting in its own right. It's called The Wedding Feast of Cana. It's by a painter called Veronese. And I'm just trying to get the word out about it, really. Because nobody looks at it because it's in the same room as the Mona Lisa. But in the center of that painting, there's a guy playing some sort of stringed instrument, probably a lute or something like that, considering the time period. I'm not totally sure. I haven't done all of the research. But for the sake of this, it's going to be a guitar, mainly because I don't play lute. Yeah, that's pretty much the main reason, actually. But yeah, I think he's like the hired wedding entertainment, and I wrote this song for him. It goes like this. In any other room, I could be noticed. In any other room, I could be noticed. They're coming in their droves from open till close. Thousands pour in, yet thousands more go. Snaking out the room, you can see the path grow. All eager for a glimpse of some primo Leonardo. Grumpy dads dragged through the crowd by their stealthy kids. Excuse-moi path as they limbo under selfie sticks. We're trying to get a picture of a picture. Picturing that picture through the phone, taking their picture. And everybody's picture looks like everyone else's picture. Like the original picture, but a smaller, blurrier fixture. All the cameras held aloft makes the view limited. Next time just type Mona Lisa into Google Images. In any other room, I could be noticed. And here I am, sat in the frame here opposite. Take anyone's time, but nobody's yet offered it or realised there's another painting to view. I've seen more backs than a masseuse in a queue. Occasionally they might turn and say, right, we've seen that, shall we find a cafe? I try to catch their eye as I'm singing my lost song. Who am I kidding? They're just thinking about a croissant. I can't make no sound. In any other room, I can't make no sound. In any other room, always the wedding singer, never the bridegroom. It's hard to get by when that loneliness finds you. If I was painted in a time that had iTunes, my playlist would just be sad songs. I feel like a raindrop trying to stand out from the shower, or a tall person competing with the Eiffel Tower. Although your height might be above average for a human, it would be of literally no interest to an architect. In any other room, I could be noticed. But then it was like my clouds were a parting shore. I realised I had everything I've been asking for. How could I have never seen? The whole time everyone was looking at her, she'd been looking at me. And I'm just sat here frozen. She could have the world, but it's me that she's chosen. My heart's racing. Never felt more alive. I think my whole painting's glowing like a starry night. She's a work of art. I mean, she actually is a work of art. She's like the Mona Lisa. Pinch me, she is the Mona Lisa. I get lost in her eyes. If I'm a safe, she's unlocked me. She must have got the Da Vinci Code. Just staring at that smirk in her features. I try to find the words, but I'm speechless. I can't make no sound. There isn't any other room. I can't make no sound. There isn't any other room. any other room. Cheers.
Much, and you can get Gecko's work. It's on Bandcamp. Go and look at all his work. You can buy it from there. Thank you very much for watching or listening. If you've gone to this via the iTunes podcast version, Josie, I'll see you tomorrow then.
I'll see you tomorrow morning, and I shall be eminently more prepared and less frazzled, I think.
I think it's a reflection problem.
Oh, I have a show and tell. I have a show and tell.
A show and tell at this time.
And I thought of you, Philippa, because I was really proud of my parenting, because I set up my daughter to do some painting and I put a thing down for her, and then I turned to do the washing up. And when I turned back, she was painting her feet. Right. And I just thought I could get annoyed at this, or I could just enjoy it. And so instead I was like, you're painting your feet. Why don't we make a painting with your feet? And this is what we did. And it made me so...
It's like a fantastic map of some islands in a sea. I love it.
Yeah, but it felt like such a victory at the end of it, because I felt like, oh, this thing that could have been stressful ended up being fun, and all we had to do was like roll with it.
So it was reflect rather than just respond. So you reflected, and hey, you got a great picture. Fantastic.
So yeah. I've thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. It's such a joy to get to see
and them.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming.
And thank you,
thank you, Trent. Every single day. Super producer.
Go to cosmicshambles.com and you can find out all the other stuff that we do when we're not kind of doing these things as well. So, and find out more about Howard Reed and all those people doing the Lost Comics. Go to Bandcamp for Gecko's work, and go and find Philippa's great books. Couch Fiction's the main one you must find. But no, go on then. Get the new ones. Get the book you wish your parents read. I've read it. We talked about it on a Book Shambles, actually, which is still available. You can find that. And it is a brilliant and incredibly useful book as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.